All right, what's up, guys? Still kind of recovering, but back to you another video. You know, we're gonna do this thing every week for a decade, maybe more. But last week's video, we talked to you about dream building. This week, we want to talk about the NFL draft. So before we get started on that, you guys know I always like to do these walks when I'm hiking or doing these videos when I'm hiking or, doing a walk. So just try to show y'all different lifestyles because this channel is dedicated to helping you live it, right? So I've had ocean view, mountain view, golf course view, home. And once you had that, live there, the standards forever change, in my opinion. You're always gonna want something with a view, something in a nice area, especially when you live in a nice neighborhood. So, but look at this. This is nice. This is the back of people's townhomes and single-family homes. So. But last night was the NFL draft 2025. Look at these cribs right here. Look at that. Look at that right there sitting on the water. I don't know if this is a pond or a lake, but I want to say it's a pond. I don't think it's really a lake, especially since you got to have, the water fountain there. That means they got to pump water into this for it to sustain itself. But it's still nice. But yeah, NFL draft was last night. I think everybody's talking about Shedeur Sanders not getting drafted. Cam Ward, how everybody thought he was very plain and, just clean. He kept it simple, right? He wasn't doing too much, and he went number 1 overall. Obviously, everybody wasn't surprised with Travis Hunter being drafted number 2. But what can we learn from the NFL draft for us, right? Because we're not getting drafted. And unless you play some type of fantasy football league, then really doesn't matter what these guys do or don't do, 5 years from now, right? 5 years from now, there'll be another player that everybody's talking about that should get drafted or shouldn't get drafted or whatever, right? But what can we really learn from the NFL draft? So let's unpack that. What I learned from the NFL draft every year, and I wouldn't even say necessarily from the draft itself. Look at that view that they got. Isn't that lovely? From the house. But I would say 5 years from now, 10 years from now, I would say probably 10 years from now. For one, let's say today is, last couple of days of April. So for number 1, by this September, so May, June, July, August, September, so 5 months from now, at least a third of the guys that got drafted will not even make the starting roster for an NFL team. That's right. I'll say it again. So I think there's like 32 teams that picked, right? First round, at least there's 32 picks in the first round. At least 9 of those guys are not going to start a game in the NFL. Just think about that. 9 of them will never play a down of professional football in the NFL. That's something to think about. Now, why do I bring that up? Well, these houses are pretty big, 3 stories. Got a nice deck out, nice yard and everything. Walking paths around. The reason I bring that up is The NFL is a multi-billion with a B, as in boy, multi-billion, maybe even trillion. I don't think they're a trillion yet, but they're close to it. But they're a multi-billion-dollar organization, corporation, if you will. And they have access to everything that you could possibly want about a person, right? So if you're talking, let's see, background, family, everything that you could possibly want to know about a person, you know, they can, especially nowadays, you probably can watch film when you're playing football from elementary school all the way up through middle school, high school. They can talk to all your coaches. They can fly private and meet your family. They can meet your friends. They can meet your best friend. They can talk to your ex-girlfriend. Look at this house, right? They can talk to your mama. They can talk to your daddy. They can talk to your cousin, your auntie. You get the point. They can talk to whoever they want to about you, right? They can talk to all your coaches. You talk to all your assistants, coordinators, your trainer, your pastor, right? And they can do all this research on you. And oh, by the way, the NFL is, over 40, 50 years old, right? It's been around since at least, I think, the late 70s, 60s, 70s, right? When they finally made the NFL, when they combined a couple other leagues together to form what the NFL is today, right? So they got at least, we'll say 50 years, because this is a 25, so 1970. So they got, we'll say 60. They got at least 60 years of documentation of great players, great coaches, great teams, etc. And yet and still, and they got scouts everywhere that's been watching you since you were in middle school. And yet and still, yesterday, they picked the best 32 guys that they thought they could hire. And not even a year from now, like I said, September, 5-6 months from now, half of those guys aren't even going to make the starting roster for the NFL team. And they were picked number one in the first round, draft pick. They were picked in the first round of the selection. After all this research, interviews, stats picked on them, watch you play college ball, watch you play high school ball, examined your knee, looked at your back, talked to the doctor, talked to your coaches, talked to your ex-girlfriend, right? Did all this research on you, way more than any other employer could ever do or ever imagine doing, and yet they still get it wrong. Why is that? Or how is it that they get 50% of it wrong, right? Look at this duck. Doesn't it look like almost like a wooden duck? Look at that. Green head or neck, yellow beak. It's wild, ain't it? Just walking across your lawn. Ducks. That's lovely. I don't think they're scared of people either. I don't think. We're going to walk up and see. But how does the NFL get that messed up, right? All these years, how do they only get it 50% right? How is it like only 2 or 3 people out of the 32 that they pick are actually good, right? And how is it that so many fail despite all the research they did? Look at that. Man, look at the colors on that thing too. You see that blue? Wow, look at that. Beautiful. But yeah, how's the NFL get that wrong? Like how do they have half their guys in less than 6 months not even make an NFL roster with all this research? And I'll tell you why. The reason why is because you cannot look at the intangibles. What do I mean by that? That's somebody's house. Well, I mean, all these somebody's houses, but look at that. Isn't that beautiful? You can't look at the intangibles. Yes, all of these guys can run fast. All of them can jump high. Right there. All of them can run fast. All of them can jump high, right? They all can tackle. They all can throw the ball 100 yards on a dime, right? They all can do backflips. They all got loose hips, quick feet, a uncanny ability to whatever, right? Strong arms, strong legs, fast, first step, whatever you want to call it, quick jab, anything. They all got it, right? They all got those athletic gifts from God in various forms. But it suffices to say that all of these men, and we'll call them young men, all of these young men are blessed with athleticism that is above average. We'll say that, right? But now what separates the good from the great ones? And that's called the intangibles, the character, the things that you don't see, the things that you can't see, right? That's what makes a difference. And that's why it's so hard for these multi-billion-dollar corporations to figure out who to hire, who's going to be the best player. Now, every now and then somebody comes along, there's a Peyton Manning, right? And you go, okay, yeah, this guy, first round pick, he's a Hall of Famer, it's pretty easy. A Ray Lewis comes along and he gets picked in the first round and he stays with the Ravens his entire career, helps him win 2 Super Bowls, and he's a Hall of Fame. That's, pretty easy. There's some that come along and you go, yeah, this guy's got the sauce, he has the sauce. But for the most part, that's very rare, right? That's why we know the names. But there's a lot more Tom Brady's out there, if you will, right? There's a lot more Jerry Rice's out there, if you will, where you go, man, there's a bumblebee around this bridge, so I'm trying to make sure that I don't make him feel threatened. Yeah, all right, I think we cool. Yeah, but he was hovering around that bridge. I was like, man, I don't want him to feel like I'm trying to be threatening at all. Like, yeah, this is your airspace, buddy. I'm just walking through it. But how does the NFL get it wrong? It's because it's intangibles. It's intangibles. It's characteristics. It's character traits. So what does that have to do with like you and I, right? Why do we care? What does that matter to us? And I would say to you, it's the difference in becoming rich, successful, wealthy in your life versus just being average and rocking along like everyone else, right? It's easy enough to get a job, climb the ladder, right? Get your degree, get your master's, get this certification, get some Beta 6 Sigma certification, get some leadership training, get that course, or do whatever, and all of a sudden you get a pay raise, a pay jump, or you get a promotion, and you're playing the corporate game, whatever. It's easy enough to do that. So easy. But what's hard is to do the daily discipline, and I wouldn't even call it a grind, because it's not necessarily a grind, but it sounds good when you say grind. But to do the daily grind that's required to have a high level of success, right? So we'll go with weight loss, for example, because that's one that's easy for people to understand the quote unquote struggle of. You walk 10 to 20,000 steps a day, lift weights 3 to 4 times a week, and keep your diet clean, i.e., for most people, that means keep your calories under 2,000 calories. Eat mostly whole foods, meats, vegetables, fruits. And you'll lose weight. You'll look amazing. And if you reduce the amount of times you eat to once or twice a day, and you keep up that walking and lifting, oh man, you'll look like Hercules or Xena, the warrior princess, overnight, right? And when we say overnight, within a couple of weeks, couple of months, right? But how many people struggle with that? Why? Because of the consistency and the discipline every day that's required, right? Because if you don't eat today, doesn't mean you're gonna look like Hercules. And if you eat like a slob today, it doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna look like Fat Albert. It doesn't work that way, right? It happens over time. If you eat McDonald's and Cheesecake Factory and you eat, Popeye's chicken, biscuits all day, every day, over a course of weeks and months, you're gonna get fat and overweight. Conversely, if you eat freaking broccoli and, chicken and vegetables and fruits all day, every day, and you're walking and you're lifting 3-4 times a week, then within a few months, you're going to start dropping weight. You're going to start losing the fat, right? You're going to start fitting different in your clothes. Your clothes may not even fit anymore, right? And so, but it's the process, right? Because neither one of those gives you results immediately, right? So if you ate, I don't know, 6,000 calories a day because you had McDonald's 3-4 times a day, and then you had cheesecake, and then you had ice cream and all this stuff, and you ate another late night, Waffle House run at 1 a.m, you're not gonna blow up tomorrow. And like we said, conversely, if you don't eat anything today, it's not like you're gonna wake up tomorrow and be shredded, right? Unless you only got 5-10 pounds you need to lose, then you might, right? But if you're 40-50 pounds away, or you got 100 pounds you need to lose, then you're not gonna look shredded tomorrow. And that is the difference with being rich and wealthy, is you can make it as simple as you want. You can say, hey, it's as simple as spending less than you earn, expanding your means, i.e. expanding what it is that you earn, right? So that your less is still more, right? And investing the difference wisely, right? So spend less than what you earn, invest that savings of between what you earn and what you spend wisely, and let that grow over time. And you will be rich and wealthy. That is as simple as that. And you can make the numbers what they want. You can say, hey, look, you're earning $1 million a year, don't spend any more than $250,000, right? Or you could say, hey, look, you're earning $100,000 a year, don't spend any more than $85,000, right? And so the numbers are going to be what they are, right, all the time. But the concept is still the same. Now, what makes the difference in execution of that? It's your intangibles. It's your vision, right? It's your creativity, right? It's your ability to think long term, right? If you're making $100,000 a year right now, how hard is it for you to go from 100,000 to 300,000, or from 300,000 to 1 million, or from 1 million to 10 million, or from 10 million to 100 million, right? There's different processes, there's different steps in that, but it's all achievable given enough time and focus, right? But for most of us, the idea of it is very nice, right? The idea of earning $1 million a year, $500,000 a year, or even for some of y'all still 100,000 a year might be nice, right? But the point is, it's your character, your discipline, your consistency, your willingness to push yourself to do the things that you don't want to do over and over again every day, that's going to determine whether you achieve those goals or not. And that, just like these NFL athletes, is what determines their success, right? So you can see, and you can go back and look on dozens of guys that didn't perform in the NFL the way it was predicted they would based on their college or their collegiate career, right? And time again, you can see it's the intangibles, right? It was never that, oh, this guy couldn't jump high enough. Oh, this guy couldn't run fast enough. Oh, this guy couldn't throw the ball 60 yards. He can only throw it 40 yards, right? It was never that, ever. It's always, this guy didn't study the playbook. This guy couldn't get along with his coach, right? This guy wouldn't watch film, right? There's always the stuff that is simple to do, but it's just not, I guess could say, convenient or fun to do on a daily basis, right? Watching film on your opponents may or may not be fun, but for most people, they may not even think to do that, because up until this point, maybe up to college, even for some guys, and even in NFL for some guys when they're really young, they just got this gift where they're just the most superior athlete on the field, period. right? They're just the fastest, strongest, quickest guy on the field, period. They ain't got to study, right? They just go out there and they just do what they do. I think someone like Derrick Henry said it. He was like, hey, when he got to Alabama, and if you don't know, Derrick Henry's an NFL running back, still currently today. He's doing very well for himself. But and he also played football in Alabama. But Derrick Henry, he said when he was in high school, they just handed him the football. I was like, hey, go. And if you want some sheer entertainment, go watch Derrick Henry highlights high school football, right? It's high school football highlight reels. And you will just see a one-man track meet, basically, is what you'll see. You'll see him hand the football left, right, up the middle, doesn't matter. The guy just runs 60, 70 yards down the field and score a touchdown. Doesn't matter what team he's playing. And week after week, game after game, he does the same thing. It's just like you just hand the football and it's almost like a cheat code on a video game. The boy just runs up and down the field. Why? Because he was just blessed with some talent and some gifts that other people didn't have. But guess what that meant when he got to Alabama, when the competition got better? It meant that he didn't really have many skills, right? He just had gifts. And so at Alabama, he talks about he had to learn how to block, right? He had to learn how to do pass protection, right? He had to learn how to run routes, right? He had to learn the skill of playing football because now the competition was stiffer. And whereas before in high school, all he did was just hand him the football and he could just run up and down the field, no problem. Well, in college, you got better athletes now. You got better competition. And you might still be better than them, but the margin that you're better than them is a lot smaller now. Right? And so now you got to put in the effort, even though you got these gifts. And so many of us are like that in our personal lives. We've got God-given gifts, but you're not taking the day-to-day action required to build the skills to really utilize those gifts, right? And I think there's a quote I have on my phone because I record all these quotes, and it says, there's nothing more common than men with potential. It's very common. Right? You walk down the street, everybody's got potential because God gives us all gifts. Different gifts, but we all have some type of gifts. Right? So, if you feel good about yourself because you're gifted, I'm here to tell you, maybe you shouldn't feel as good as you do if you're not achieving a high level of success utilizing your gifts, if you're not impacting people with your gifts. Maybe you shouldn't feel as good about yourself. Right? So many of us, you feel good because you have quote unquote potential, right? Everybody says you got this, you can talk, you can speak, you could run fast, you can dance well, whatever, you got potential. But everybody has potential for the most part. Is what are you doing with it, right? And nobody on the outside looking in can tell or look at you and know what you're willing to do or not willing to do. That's what makes the draft such a difficult thing, right? We can measure how fast someone can run. We can measure how high they can jump. We can measure how many bench press reps they can do. But nobody can measure your willingness to discipline yourself. Nobody can measure your hunger to be great and that drive you to do what you need to do every day, day in and day out for years to become great, right? Nobody can measure your desire to be the best. And not only your desire to be the best, but your willingness to do the work every day that's required to be the best, right? Nobody can measure that. You can't measure it. That's what makes it so difficult. But I'm telling you, that's what makes the difference between someone that's a draft bust and someone that makes it to the Hall of Fame. And in life, for us quote unquote regular folks, that's what makes it different between becoming just average, working a great job, or being rich and having a few million, or being wealthy, right? Because I'm telling you, I've read dozens of books, watched dozens of autobiographies on billionaires. And I'm here to tell you, I have yet to meet or hear or see any billionaire that said, I was just trying to become a billionaire. haven't. Every billionaire I've ever studied or even heard about, they were doing it. Whatever it is that took them to billions, they were doing that because it was something they loved, something they enjoyed, or it's a problem that they were trying to solve. And they figured out how to solve it really well, and they kept working. Right? Like if you think of the billionaires right now off the top of your head, right? Social media has this illusion of people just sitting on a yacht, sipping champagne, doing absolutely no work for the rest of their life, and they just got this money coming in, this passive income lifestyle, right? But think about it. Think about every billionaire that you can name off the top of your head. Do they work? Yes or no? Elon Musk, does he work? Yes. Jeff Bezos, does he work? Yes. Oprah Winfrey, does she work? Yes. Tyler Perry, does she work? Yes. Michael Jordan, does he work? Now, he might not work in the sense of, putting in 40 hours a week the way you might think, but he's definitely working, doing deals behind the scenes. That's how his brand has continued to grow and become what it is today. But I don't think he's doing 40 hours a week anymore, right? But he definitely put in that work when he was with the Chicago Bulls, right? Think about all the billionaires. Most of them still working. Warren Buffett, right? He's still investing to this day, right? Magic Johnson, still investing, doing deals today. Dr. Dre, still investing, doing Jay-Z and Beyonce collectively. Are they not dropping albums still? Is Beyonce still not going on tour doing performances at Coachella, right? And you got to think about this. Do they need the money? Have they not already achieved hundreds of millions of dollars of value and net worth where it's like, hey, they can do what it is that they want to do? Then what drives them, right? There's something beyond the money. And again, I'm just showing you characteristics of people that are highly successful financially speaking. And you can see that there's intangibles. Do you think Beyonce is the only one that can sing and dance the way she does? Really? You think Jay-Z is the best rapper alive? Really? It's not to say that he doesn't have good songs. It's not to say he doesn't have hits. But you think he's the only man that can rap? Really? You think Oprah is the only person that could interview somebody in front of a camera and do a talk show? Right? But what makes them different, right? It's their consistency and discipline over time and their desire for greatness, their desire to be the best that they can be long after the money has arrived. Because again, we can go back to this NFL draft, all right? How many of these guys, all right, let's say they take it one level, meaning they start in the NFL, they play great for a couple seasons, and now comes the contract. Now comes the big money, right? Right? Because if you sign the first round, you might be talking 20, 30, 40 million. And by today's professional standards, that's not a lot of money, relatively speaking, right? Don't get twisted in the millions, right? Don't get caught up in the millions. But relatively speaking, by professional sports organization standards, that's just not a lot of money. Hold on a second, guys. I got to tie my shoe. As you can tell, I do these videos live and unedited, right, for now. Might hire an editor eventually. But anyways, let's say they make 20, 30 million. Now, 2-3 years in, they're like, oh my gosh, this guy's on fire. He's killing it. Now comes the big money. 4 or 5 years, 100, 150, 200 million, $250 million, maybe even $300 million contract, right? Woo-wee, right? All right, we finally made it, mama. We made it, right? Daddy, we made it, right? Life-changing money, generational wealth type money, if you get all of it, right? So now we got 3 year, so we'll say 5-year, $250 million contract. $50 million at the time of signing. Woo-wee, shut your mouth, right? And how many times do you see guys after signing that, they disappear? The most famous guy I can remember is Albert Hainsworth. Signed a $100 million contract. And that fall, he showed up to camp overweight. right? He showed up to camp overweight. Like, excuse me, sir? Are you kidding me? You just signed a $100 million contract in the spring and you show up to football camp overweight? Really? But again, was his desire the money, or was his desire to be the best player he could be? Well, his actions clearly show his desire was to get paid. It wasn't to be the best player he could be, right? So, why do I keep bringing that up? Because again, it's the intangible. It's the little things, right? You can't measure. So when you peel back the layers of extreme success beyond average in any industry, you're always going to find the same thing. A person, man, woman, or group of individuals that had an extreme desire to be the best that they could be, or to serve their customer the best that they could be, or the best of their ability, right? Or to solve this problem, right? And they were laser focused on it. And then they were consistent and disciplined to show up every day and to work on that problem or that skill, or to develop that skill or develop that business until what it became today, until now they have an extremely high level of success. And not only that, but they stay at it for years, right? Now I'm going to say 10 years minimum, right? That's what I'm going to say. So for most of your Hall of Famers in the NFL, they played at least 10 years. They had years of sustained greatness, meaning they didn't have one good season or two good seasons, but they had a good 5-7 years of just extreme dominance, right? Because anybody can have a good season. Anybody can have a really great year when nobody knows you, or, you know, somebody gets hurt. You come out there, you don't really have any game film on you. They don't really know your skill set, and you just go out there and dominate. But it's another thing to go out there when people can prepare. They can watch film on you. Now they know your tendencies. Now they know everything that you like to do or don't do, right? They know your weaknesses, and you still go out there and dominate, or you still go out there and try to improve your game to get better, right? It's a whole nother level. And anyone that you see that really dominates in business, anybody that you see that really dominates financially, they've been making millions of dollars for years. Not 1 year, not 2 years, for years. Or if they did it, quote unquote, overnight, you will find out that they've been building their business, or they've been building businesses for years, right? And the other thing you will find that if they themselves have not done it for years, you will find out that they have an advisor, a mother, a father, someone somewhere that has those years of experience coaching them, teaching them the shortcuts to get there faster. Every single time, without exception. So, when you look at your life, you know, you might feel like you're a first round draft pick, and you might feel like, hey, I got all the skills to run fast and jump high and do whatever it is that you do in your field, right? And we'll say whether that's business, entrepreneurship, whether that's, you know, knitting blankets together or scarves, whatever it is. But what makes, or I guess you could say, are you the consistent person? That would be the question to ask you. Are you disciplined? And let me break that down further. Are you willing to do the unsexy things, the boring things, day in and day out until you see the results that you want to see? Right? When it doesn't feel good. Right? When you rather sleep, when you rather be on vacation, when you rather be partying, when you rather be doing anything but what's required to achieve this high level success that you want, are you willing to do it? And are you going to push yourself to do what you need to do? That's the real question. Right? And Nick Saban, great Alabama football head coach, right? Created a standard of winning. And he breaks it down so simple. I'm going to try to repeat what he said. I haven't listened to it in a while, but he says, right now, there's something that I should be doing that I don't feel like doing, but I know that I'm supposed to be doing. Can I get myself to do it? Right? That's one of the questions he asked his players. And he said the other question to ask is, there's something that I do feel like doing right now that I'm not supposed to be doing. But I want to do it anyway, but I know that I'm not supposed to be doing it, but I want to do it. Can I get myself not to do it? Right? And I thought that was so beautiful because it applies to every area of our lives when it comes to success, right? To being a great husband, to being a great father, great mother, great daughter, right? Great employee, great employer, right? Getting in shape, right? Getting rich, getting wealthy, all of that. A lot more times it is, there's something I'm supposed to be doing right now. I know what it is, but I don't feel like doing it, right? I really don't. But can I get myself to do it anyway? And on the flip side, there's something that I want to do right now that I know I'm not supposed to do, or that I shouldn't be doing, or at the very least, I know it does not align with the goals that I have, right? I know that it doesn't align with my long-term goals. Will I say no, or will I say, screw it, I'm going to do it anyway, right? And that is what these NFL teams and owners and scouts and whoever else they got out there looking at these players, that is what they can never see. Because you see, nobody knows whether you do those extra 5 or 10 push-ups at night before you go to bed. Nobody knows. Oh man, look at this. This is a stork right here. I'm about to see if I can roll up on it. No, I'm not. He already rolled out. He peeked me before I peeked him. He was like, no, sir, you ain't even going to get close to me. But anyways, nobody can see that you do those 10 push-ups before you go to bed, right? I had an associate of mine that used to work for the Boston Celtics, right? The NBA team, Boston Celtics, back when Kevin Durant and, no, it wasn't Kevin Durant, Kevin Garnett, wrong Kevin, sorry. Kevin Garnett was there. And Rajon Rondo had just got there. And Paul Pierce was there, right? This is back when the Celtics were fighting for the championship every season, right? Getting close, right? Getting deep into the playoffs, right? You remember that. If you don't, go back and look. When Paul Pierce was there, Kevin Garnett was there, Rajon Rondo was brand new. And I forget, there was a couple other guys there, but the Celtics back then, they were the truth. They was the real deal. And he worked there as a staff member. Right? He was in charge of media relations. And I'll never forget one of the things that he told me that always resonated with me. And that was, he said, every superstar NBA player that you meet, he says they always do the fundamentals every day. And I was like, well, what does that mean? Break that down to me, And he said, you would think that someone like Kevin Garnett or Paul Pierce or whatever, he's like, you would think that after practice, these guys would be, working on a trick shot, working on some behind the back pass, some no look shot, or, with their eyes closed. He said, you would be thinking that, that's what these guys are doing, right? They're trying to figure out a fancier dribble. And he was like, no. He's like, they stand there like they're in high school or even middle school. He was like, they dribble the ball 100 times with their left hand. He's like, no in between the legs, no behind the back, no crisscross, none of that. Just a straight left-handed dribble up and down 100 times. He's like, then they do the same thing with the right hand. And then he was like, they go around the three-point line and they'll take 1,000 shots. He's like 100 shots here, 100 shots there, another 100 shots there. He's like, they'll go to the foul line, shoot 50 shots, 200 shots in a row, try to make them all. He's like, they do that every day after practice when their teammates leave. And I was so shocked to hear that. I was like, what? He's like, yeah. He's like, they practice the fundamentals of basketball. The great ones. And on the outside looking in, you would think like, man, these guys, You, like I said, working on trick shots, right? They're trying to do some behind the pass, they're trying to do some fancy dribble, right? They're trying to figure out how to bounce the ball off the corner of the backboard and do, like an alley hoop to themselves or something. Like, no. They're working on the basic shots, right? They're working on the foul shot. They're working on dribbling the ball with the left hand, with the right hand, running up and down the court, dribbling the ball, left hand, right hand, shooting 100 shots around the three-point line in a row, trying to make them all. And that's what makes them great. Because I don't know about you, but just thinking about that sounds very unsexy, sounds very boring and unattractive, if you ask me, right? I can think of better things to do with my time than sitting around the basketball court trying to hit 100 shots in a row with nobody watching. Dribbling the ball, my left hand with my right hand, like I don't know how to dribble, right? Like it's my first time dribbling and trying to master that dribble. That sounds very boring. And it is, I imagine. But then that's how these guys earn 30, 40, 50 million a season. This is why we know their names, because they're willing to do that every single day after practice when nobody's looking. Again, and notice that I said after practice, meaning this is not required of them by their team or by their teammates. This is a personal decision they made to be great, that this is what it takes and this is what they're going to do to be great. You see the difference? So when we look at talking about being rich financially or becoming wealthy or earning an extremely high income, right? Earning multiple 6 figures, earning 7 figures, 8 figures, 9 figures. It's not something that's so crazy or untouchable, but it does require a different level of discipline, consistency, and desire, right? It requires you to do some stuff on your personal time or on your free time that other people can't demand of you. And only you know what that is, right? And if you don't know what it is, then that might just be the assignment to begin with. It might just be you figuring out what is the thing that I can do, what is the thing that I can do with my gifts that will set me apart from others, right? And then how do I develop those skills or utilize those skills to serve others so that I can earn the multiple 6 figures, the multiple 7 figures, or even 8 figures, right? That might just be you discovering the answers to those questions. But then once you know the answers, are you going to do what it is? Because more times than not, it's not as hard to find the answers as it is to execute them, right? So always look at the drafts, whether it's the NBA draft, NFL draft, baseball, doesn't matter. And I always laugh because it's like, man, they can never really get it right? There's always 1 or 2 obvious people, right? And we know they're going to be good and great. But we'll say 70 to 80% of them, you don't really know. Even though they were picked first round, offered big money, big contracts, you just don't know. But it's a constant reminder that the door is wide open for those of us that are willing to be consistent, to be disciplined when no one's looking, to do the little things day in and day out that cause us to have an unfair advantage. And I'm telling you now, and I promise you now, that it's a everyday thing, right? That's why you hear the saying that success is not owned, it's rented, and the rent's due every day. It's a true saying. Even though it's a little platitude, it's a very accurate statement. And I think sometimes we as people, we underestimate how long we need to commit. Everybody's got this 30-day transformation, 60-day, 90-day transformation, 75 hard, whatever, right? All of these short time frames. And that's not to say that it doesn't feel long while you're doing it. But did you hear what I said earlier about 10 years? To be in the Hall of Fame? 10 years, right? Like, what would you commit to to do 10 years. Like I told you, I committed to doing these videos once a week for 10 years. Right? It's not even the end of year one, right? I got 16 subscribers, but I promise you 5, 6, 7 years from now, come back, look at this video, and then we'll see how many subscribers I have then. Right? Would I ever get to 1 million? I don't know. But will I get to 100,000? I best believe. I'm almost certain I'll get there. Right? I don't know if 1 million people will like me, but I guarantee you 100,000 people will like me. Love me, if you will. But how long will you be willing to commit? And not only commit, again, like I said, consistency and discipline. So it's not about just me putting out a video every week for 10 years straight, but it's also getting better, right? Improving, right? So 5, 6 years from now, my video shouldn't look like it looks today, right? There should be a film crew. There should be some type of production, right? There should be some type of editing, right? Somebody should be cutting clips, cutting reels, and putting them on different platforms to promote it, right? I should be on different podcasts, telling my story. Like, there's a lot of different nuances that come with it, right? And then not only that, but I'll have a different level of success to speak from, right? 5, 6 years from now, I'm earning $1 million plus a year. Now I'm talking from a 7-figure level, not from a 6-figure level. And when I get to that level, it's like I'm going to have different lessons that I've learned along the way and different lessons that I can teach, right? And I'll also be speaking to a different audience then, right? Because there's a different audience that's trying to get from, we'll say 5 figures to 6 figures, then an audience that's trying to go from 6 figures to 7 figures, right? It's a smaller audience, but it's a more serious audience, right? And I would say it's a more connected audience, right? Because people that are trying to get to 7 figures, they are networked, right? So maybe it might not be as large of an audience, but it'll be a more serious audience, more focused audience. And the conversation will be well past being disciplined and having consistency and all. They will already understand that's a given, right? But now it'll be, hey, what skill do I need to learn? Or what skill do I need to develop to go from 6 to 7, right? What is it that I don't know that I need to execute, or what is it that I need to stop executing, and what leverage do I need to tap into to get to this next level, right? What mindset shift do I need to make, right? It'll be a whole different conversation. But the point is, what is it that you're willing to do for 10 years to be good, to be great, to really become rich, really become wealthy, and to live an extraordinary life? And it's going to take a little bit of sacrifice. And just like the NFL can't really pick who is willing to pay that price and who's not, nobody in your life or my life can really say whether or not you're willing to pay that price either. Only you can decide whether you're willing to pay that price or not, right? And so I think that's an exciting thing, because you get to decide. No one else can decide for you. And you can talk about the president, you can talk about, this war going on, you can talk about that going on. But at the end of the day, when you talk about Hall of Fame athletes, like, was Ray Lewis a better athlete because of, whoever was president, or because whoever was the governor? It sounds silly, right? It sounds silly to say that, Peyton Manning was a better quarterback because, President Trump was in office, whatever, right? Like, it just sounds silly, right? We all know, because he put in the work to develop his skills and to have an unfair advantage over his opponents. And he worked hard, right? He wasn't the most athletic. He's by far not the most athletic quarterback to ever play the position. And same with Tom Brady. But you just want to talk about their work ethic, their discipline, their consistency. Oh yeah, elite. Elite. The guy talks about eating avocado ice cream. Like, who knows that? Who knew that was even a flavor? You know what I'm saying? But that's how committed he was. To the point that his wife left him. And that's not a diss, but it's just to say, like, this shows you the level of commitment to, it might even been obsessive, which you will frequently hear about the highest level of success, that is excessive or obsessive, right? But again, look what he achieved in his football career. I don't think it'll be done again, ever. I think seven or what, 9 Super Bowls, seven rings or something like that. It won't be done again. Guarantee you that. You'll never have that mixture of coach, team, and a unselfish leader like Brady. Again, you won't ever get that. I feel like Mahomes will come close. He'll come close. But again, very rare air that you're talking about. You're talking about Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan type of air, right? Only 2 out of billions of people that ever accomplished it in a 100-year span. So guys, I want you to realize that high level success is not something that is esoteric. It's not something that is, pie in the sky where you go, oh my gosh, can't figure it out, right? Usually it's a few simple things you just execute on day in and day out for years. And then again, you earn more, but you don't spend more than you earn. You invest the difference. And that's how you become rich and wealthy. That's how you live an extraordinary life. And that will lead you to all the things that you could possibly ever want and desire and more. That's the formula. But it's not sexy. Don't kid yourself. It's boring to do the work, right? Don't let anybody fool you into thinking that, right? Muhammad Ali said he hated training, but he said do it anyway because that's the price for greatness, right? Mike Tyson hated training, but look who he became because of the training that he did, right? So don't kid yourself. If great athletes have to do it, how much more so us regular folks who may not necessarily have an obvious gift that stands out immediately, right? Like athletes, you can see that pretty much when they're a child, right? You know that they have this thing. Other gifts, it may not be so obvious, like being a great speaker, being able to entertain folks, right? Being an extreme visionary in business, right? Those things are not immediately obvious from a child like being a great athlete is, right? You might have to take a little time and discover those things. But nonetheless, once you figure it out, then developing those skills and figuring out how to utilize them, it's a lifelong thing, right? And I also say it's a God thing. I don't think I ever intended to make this channel a religious thing because that's not my intention. But as a believer in God, you can also pray. Ask God to show you things. But I will caution you with that is that once he gives you the answer, you may not necessarily like the answer that you get, or you may find that the answer you get is going to require you to work and become a different person than what you imagine. But you'll know that that's what you were created for. And when you get there, you'll be able to withstand and to hold up the success that you create, right? Because you'll be ready, you'll be developed. So, with that, guys, I think we're going to wrap this up a little bit earlier today. Normally we try to go for an hour, but I think we got the point. I think you guys get the message. And the message is not a sexy one, but it's the truth. The little daily disciplines when nobody's looking, the commitment to excellence once you quote unquote get there, meaning once you start earning $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year, once you start earning $700,000 a year, once you start earning $1, $2, $3 million a year, once you get to $1 million a month, right? Are you still going to keep showing up? Are you still going to keep trying to get better? Or are you going to quit? Right? Because that's the difference, right? These billionaires, they didn't quit as soon as they saw a couple $100 million in their bank account or in their net worth. They kept going. Elon Musk made $200-300 million. He kept going, right? Mark Cuban made $200-400 million or whatever it was, and he kept going, right? So don't kid yourself, right? It's got to be a commitment, a lifelong commitment to greatness that's really going to take you to that level that elite 1% level. And it's not a, when I hit 10, 20 mil, I'm going to check out. There's nothing wrong with that if that is your goal. There's nothing wrong with that, right? There's nothing wrong with making 50 million and being like the guys, Tom from MySpace, right? Tom sold MySpace and he disappeared off the face of the earth, right? Now we know he's still alive and he's doing well for himself, but Tom had a goal. And when he hit it, hey, that's another great example. Like, you don't know where in the world Tom is. He ain't on a podcast, he ain't on a news show, nothing. He is living his life and enjoying it, right? And in some cases, that might be better than being an Elon Musk or Oprah or Jay-Z or whatever, right? Is to be a Tom. But even if that is your goal, you're still going to go out there and have to build that business or build that service that somebody would want to buy to allow you to go off and disappear off the face of the earth for life, right? And go backpacking across the Philippines or Thailand or whatever, right? You're going to have to still be that elite person for a period of time until you build or develop whatever that is that can be sold. So you're still going to have to apply those same skill sets. It's just once you get there, then you can go off and get fat, get ugly, whatever you want to call it, or, buy that yacht and sip champagne. You can do whatever it is once you built it, once you set it up. But I can assure you, Tom bought some assets. I can assure you he bought some businesses, or he bought some real estate, or a combination of all those things, the stocks, and now he's just sitting back and enjoying. And he's enjoying not being in the public eye. And being a very rich, wealthy man, not in the public eye, is probably the best thing in the world. You got the money of an Elon Musk, but nobody really knows who you are. So you can walk down the street, still go to the theaters, and nobody harass you. And more importantly, nobody's trying to rob you, and nobody's trying to shake you up or sue you for money. We ain't gonna get into Shannon Sharp right now, but nobody's out there trying to extort you because they don't know you got it, right? But again, that's a different conversation. But we'll get one more view of this little pond or lake or whatever you want to call it, because I just think it's really, really dope how they got these houses right out here. It's prime real estate, if you ask me. It's really nice, really quiet. You can hear the birds chirping and everything. But yeah, guys, I think we made the point for today's video. I think these people, they got the pool there too. Look at that. They got it covered up, but that's a pool. The steps, it's really nice. And make sure you guys go to nice neighborhoods. Check them out. Go to car dealerships. Check them out. Go to the jewelry store. Go to the handbag. Whatever it is that you like, go visit it. Right? Get around people that these things are normal for. Whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. You're trying to be a great pianist. Hang out with other great pianists. And I would say in the beginning, man, I ain't about to start a whole new message, but I would say in the beginning, you just need to get comfortable and realize that it is a reality for somebody. But then the next level is start figuring out what do these people do differently, right? Because they're no better than you. They're just at a different level, right? So then maybe you need to start, like this case. So if you got here, maybe if you see somebody walking along the trail or whatever, you can talk to them. Hey, excuse me, sir, ma'am, do you live here? Is this your neighborhood? Yeah, okay, what do you do to live here, right? How long have you lived here, right? How did you pick this area, right? Is this a dream home for you? Is this one of your homes, right? Do you have multiple homes, right? Is it a permanent residence, a vacation residence, right? Ask those questions. And as long as, I guess you could say, once they figure out that you're not trying to kill them or steal, from them or whatever, right? Because everybody's got their guard up for good reason, right? But once once they realize you're just genuinely inquisitive and you're impressed by this standard of living, then most people will open up for you, and you'd be surprised. That may give you a connection or an opportunity that you could have never imagined previously. And so I always say, visit where you want to live, visit where you would like to shop, visit the places you would like to visit. Like maybe you can't go to whatever vacation right now and stay at the Four Seasons, but if you can stay at the Days Inn, I don't like the Days Inn, but if it's a cheap Airbnb, do that. but get around it. You know, if it's an exclusive country club or whatever, go there, you know, and be around it and interact with the people. The sooner you interact with the people, the better, because you never know, you might make it as a friend or as an associate. But I'm telling you, when you do, it'll open your mind, it'll change your mind, because you'll meet someone that you can relate to. And I think that's the big key, is when you meet somebody that you can relate to, that you could see yourself in, it's really going to make it possible for you to believe for yourself, because you're going to go, man, Bob's my boy. There's no difference between me and Bob or me and Sally or Mary or whatever. They got this, that, and you're like, maybe they had this advantage or that advantage, but I can do it as that they do, right? Or, you know, they do the same thing that I can do, and so just giving a little bit more time and effort, or just a little more skill, I can get to whatever, blah, 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 blah. And next thing you know, you got a whole different view and vision of what's possible. So, for fear of starting a whole nother, I won't say podcast, but a whole nother video, because that's what speakers do, right? Speakers speak. They can just go on for days, for hours. It's almost like being a pastor or being a preacher, right? You can start a whole nother sermon on the spot. But to not do that, I'm going to end this with these views and just say, hey guys, remember the draft. It's not, you know, about getting picked first round, but it's about the intangibles, right? It's about the intangibles, your character that nobody can see. That's really determines the success in your life and the level at which you achieve, you know? It's not external as much as it is internal, right? It's not necessarily your head coach, not necessarily the team that you go to, although those do affect it. But again, even Barry Sanders and Calvin Johnson proved that you can go on a losing team and still be the best doggone player on the team for a decade plus and dominate, right? Maybe you can't help that team win, but you still proved yourself to be the best athlete that you could be, despite being in a losing environment, right? And so just recognize that it's the intangibles, the discipline, consistency, developing your skills, mastering those skills. That's what's going to take you to the life of your dreams, right? It's not just having the gifts. It's working with the gifts, developing them. All right, guys. Like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you want me to talk more about, less about. Let me know if you appreciate these videos, seeing the different neighborhoods, seeing the dealerships, right? Seeing the different lifestyles that are out there. So I'll keep showing it to you. But if not, you know, if you'd rather me just sit behind a screen and chit chat to you, like, you know, like a Flimlo Raps type style, you know, just be in the desk studio or whatever, I could do that. But I really think this is value, because some people are afraid to come out to places like this. Some people are afraid to be in a nice environment, even though that's what they want, right? So I try to share it with you as much as I can. But until the next video, guys, take care.